Greetings, my name is Susie Olson with Shades of Green Hospice Society, and this is a short video on the pond panel at our February general meeting. The pond panel consisted of Kim Green, past Shades of Green Hospice Society president, board member in a number of different capacities. Rick and Mona Keene, charter members, has been a board member in a number of different capacities. Karen Marek, owner of Shades of Green Landscape Incorporated and master gardener. Cindy Tomaszek, Shades of Green founder and president of Midwest Regional Hospice Society, and vice president of the American Hospice Society Member Services, and former master gardener. Moderated by me, Susie Olson, Shades of Green Education Committee member, workshop chair, previous board member, and master gardener. First question that was posed to the panel was, why have a water feature? Answers varied from the sound of the water, the sound of the creatures in the pond, specifically frogs, the opportunity to have fish to feed them, one member, the view, the beauty of it, and for it to be the focal point of the garden. For me, as a person who's had numerous different small ponds in my small yard, mine was giving my grandchildren an opportunity and a place to explore. And of course, that meant my ponds needed to have safety as their main attribute. As you'll see, there are images in between each section that change colors. These are pictures from the American Hospice Society convention. Our second question dealt with location. Why did you pick this location? And here we have a video clip thanks to Karen Marek and KMSQ talking about her choice of location.
Got quite a slope. You really have addressed a challenge that many homeowners face. You were showing me some pictures earlier of what this looked like beforehand.
Picture here of Karen's property before she landscaped it shows a very steep grade. This steep grade definitely lent itself well to water feature. A meandering water feature starting at the top and coming down the hillside. Next, you will see Kim's space. There's also a video clip from KMSU that talks about choice of location. One of the key things Kim mentioned was that a person needs to look at what their space is like and work within those parameters. If you have a flat area and want a water feature that includes a waterfall, it's going to look awkward and unnatural. Using the space you have and letting that dictate will help it fit into the environment and look natural.
We decided we wanted a big pond.
Okay.
And so that used to all be woods, but there was a depression there, and so we thought, hey, this would be a great location for a pond.
Cindy shared a little bit about location and how it was selected. But she needed a place for her water. It could be level, as her backyard is narrow and steep, and she wanted it close to her back door so she could hear the sounds of the water and hear the sounds of the frogs. Mona and Rick had an idea where they wanted their water feature, and with the input of Karen Marek, who helped design and build the pond, they determined that that was the best location. They also went to the cities to look at ponds that were available for viewing. One of the issues they had, this is where their septic system was. And so because that location was best suited for a central theme and a good view from the house, they had the septic system moved. Needless to say, it was quite an endeavor, but they're very happy with the location they selected. I selected my location because there had been a pond there previously that was somewhat deep and had sloping sides to it. The pond was also made of cement, which is not the best idea in our environment, as it did crack the years that I had it in use and I had to patch it. I had also a lovely bridge over the top. The granddaughters loved to walk across it, to look at the water, and to watch the water fountain as it flowed into the pond. This worked great for the granddaughters, but the grandson, when he got old enough to walk around, all he could think of is putting his foot into the water and climbing in. Not that he ever did, but you could tell that was his mission. So the water feature had to change, and I'll talk a little bit more about how that changed later. So the pond had already been there, but also it's a great place for a water feature, as it's one of the first things you see as you round the corner of my house and come into the backyard. I wanted it to be the first thing you saw as you enter the yard. The next section of questioning was around the topic of mechanics, filters, tubing, liners, and other parts of the working of the water feature. Well, my water feature was the first one that was addressed, and I call it the headwaters to the Mississippi. It's actually a fairly simple system with very inexpensive pumps. 2 pumps are in my water system, one for bringing the water to the very top of the small waterfalls. I have a planking system underneath that is disguised and hidden by dirt and rocks and sticks from my yard that are basically birch sticks. And the first pump goes to the top. The second pump is at the very end to make sure that water flows on top of a rock that otherwise would not have water flowing on top of it as it flows into the water system. Both of these pumps, one is located in the middle of the water feature, the second is located on the end so that there's a fair amount of water circulation that takes place. I don't have a filtering system, but it's definitely something I want to think about and see if, after listening to this presentation, see if that I should add to my water feature. Cindy shared about her system, which she says is very simple and basic, nothing fancy, but she has a Beckett pump that she got from Fleet Farm years ago, as Karen helped set up the Keens pond. They have a skimmer basket at the Keens. The water comes through the basket, through rocks, and over the top. Rick cleans the skimmer box in the lower part of the pond where the pump is housed about once a year.
The pump for the water feature sits down here in the pond, and there is a 2-inch hose that's connected to the pump, runs all the way up to the top here into a biofalls. The water is pushed up through the bottom of that box. There's barley straw, there's lava rock, there's several things. Filter the water before it comes up and over. Okay. It's actually a 7,000 gallon per hour pump. Keep the large pumps going continually.
Barley straw is an algicide that Karen uses, and she keeps it in the top of the biofalls and puts the barley straw in a bag. Water is filtered through. Karen replaces this about every 4 weeks to help keep the algae at bay. Second one is of the skimmer box. This is from the Aquascape company and is what Karen prefers to use in her installations. This is the bin that goes in the bottom of the water feature. This is where the pump is located. And this is also located at the far end of your pond so that it increases the water movement and keeps the water fresh and mosquito larvae free. Screenshot gives you an idea of what comes with the biofalls, the part of the pump system that starts at the top of your waterfalls. As you see, there's a bit of a lip, a stone-looking piece of the unit sits on top of that to create the waterfalls. This uses a bog system. You can listen to her explanation in the short video. She has less issues with algae, and much of her filtration is done through the bog, which she will describe in her video.
Basically, the whole purpose of the bog is to help clarify your water. Okay. So what it does is it provides surface structure. Behind the pond is where we have 2 pump towers sitting. Mm-hmm. One pump pumps to one bog, one pump pumps to the other bog. Okay. The way the bog is structured is underneath the bog is PVC tubing with holes drilled in it. You actually have the roots directly in your bogs and also in your pond, delivering the nutrients to the root system.
Question number 4, natural elements. This includes plants, moss, and other materials. As you'll see in the Keene garden, there are 3 lovely fountain pillars that are fountains into the pond. Gray trap rock and granite boulders were used to form the pond. The birds and deer come often to the pond, peregrine falcons, and even turkey. There is a basalt bird bath that's incorporated into the structure as well that adds to its beauty and gives them hours of enjoyment watching the birds come and drink. Karen always uses granite, never limestone, as she works with clients and in her own garden. Limestone is too alkaline and will pollute the water, killing the fish.
Actually, oak branches that I found in the woods, and to incorporate those and to make it look more natural. With the water coming over the falls there, that it keeps that moss growing.
Kim recommends that when you're designing a pond and you want waterfall feature that you should over-exaggerate the curves when planning this out. Rocks will soften up those curves and reduce the visual effect that you're looking for. The professional liners, the professional rubber that you will get can cost a considerable amount, and it's easy to consider using resources that might be readily available, like roofing material. This will put toxins in the water if you have an intention of adding fish to your pond, and I have in my pond roofing material, and since it is not suitable for fish in the design I have, it wasn't a concern to me. One of my ponds is just the kidney-shaped one as well, and this has worked out well for me. I used it in the ground initially. It was easy for it to get dirt inside with heavy rains, and it also was too easy for grandkids to want to stick their toes in the water. So I took timbers and built a box above ground and raised my small kidney-shaped water feature that has a small fountain in it, and the eye appeal is much more pleasant for me, and it works better for the grandkids so they don't fall in. A 65 millimeter to 45 millimeter pond liner is preferred. If you are concerned about what's underneath your pond and how it might penetrate it, a 65 millimeter liner is recommended. 45 should be adequate. In question number 5, we talked more about different plant materials that were used in the ponds and water features of our panelists. Cindy has some lovely water lilies that she's used, as you see in the picture. If you look a little harder, you'll also see some water lettuce. This plant can be invasive in warmer climates. Keep that in mind. It does tend to be a fast grower and does multiply quickly. You'll want to eliminate some of this. Rakes work well to clean out your pond of too much plant life, especially if you have tadpoles that you don't want to get rid of. You want to keep your population high with your frogs. Rake works great. For the Keens, you see beautiful hostas surrounding their gardens. This Japanese maple stays quite dwarf and looks very beautiful next to Karen's pond. Karen also has some beautiful grasses and other plant materials. In Kim's pond, you'll see these yellow hearts lilies. They are zone 6 plant, but grow well and even winter over in her pond. Quite prolific, and using a rake to eliminate some of that does help open up the waterways a little bit as well. Some blue flag grass is alongside of Kim's garden as well and adds a lovely edging for her. We talked about fish some and water creatures, not just the frogs. Again, I mentioned my water feature isn't suitable for fish, mostly because there's rocks and it's hard for any fish to navigate around in that space. And also I have a liner that would be toxic to the fish and any plants that I would grow in there. I wouldn't plant plants in mine either. But we do have fish in Karen's pond, and Cindy, Mona, and Rick, and Kim. Kim, Cindy, and Rick and Mona have a deep enough pond that they do keep their fish out in the pond. They do use heaters. Cindy and Kim keep a little bit more of a schedule. Fish do enjoy eating the mosquito larvae. Fish will not metabolize food when the temperature is below 50 degrees. So keep in mind, if you do have a pond that's deep enough that you intend to keep fish in the pond all winter, not to feed them when the temperatures are below 50 degrees. It will kill them. Also, a comment was made about goldfish versus koi. Koi will eat your plants as they get larger. Keep in mind that the koi will impact the way your plants look in your pond. Karen brings her fish in. She does have to clean them. She has a holding tank over the winter for her fish, and she does have to clean that regularly because of the ammonia levels and the smell. So keep that in mind. If you have a deeper pond and you do use one of the heaters, you can find tank heaters. There are different systems out there. Some take more voltage than others. Find a water heater and keeps the water from freezing over when the water temperature gets down low enough so it's not on all the time. There are some great options out there. Here are the water biscuits that I mentioned earlier. These work great in my pond to keep the mosquitoes from hatching. Since, again, I don't have fish, I do need something to keep the water from being breeding ground. To finish up, we had some additional pictures available from from Karen and some of the work she's done. Here's some lovely pillars that she has put in the ground. The water comes up through the pillars and bubbles into the underground water holding area below the pillars. Makes for a beautiful water feature. A few other things that are available through the company that she purchases, and actually you can get them at a number of different garden centers, are the ponds that have the lip where it overflows into the lower area. Again, this might be an underground storage, water storage area that the water flows into, or just the lower bowl. Makes for a beautiful water feature, especially for small areas. Thanks again to all our panel members. KSMQ's footage also was great to have part of this. Be watching at the end of this video for some references to different companies where you can purchase some of these supplies. Thank you and have a great day.